Hello everyone, this is Tom Uren. I'm here with the Grugq for another Between Two Nerds episode. G'day Grugq, how are you?
G'day Tom, fine on yourself?
I'm well. This week's episode is brought to you by Trail of Bits. Find them at trailofbits.com. I have a very interesting interview with CEO Dan Guido about how AI is really changing Trail of Bits, the way it works, its enterprise, the whole business. Catch that on the podcast channel. So Grugq, this, I find it quite fascinating thing happened a couple of weeks ago that made me think about how people don't really care about security, and for most people that is absolutely the right thing to do.
Can I just stop you there for a second? You are aware of the industry that we work in, right?
Yeah, so sorry to break it to everyone. What we do is just pointless most of the time, as a rule.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
So the incident was it's a hedge fund called Hunter Grugq, and it's styled as Hunter Grugq without the vowels, I think on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. And what they do is deep dive investigative reports into companies that they think are doing something bad or fraudulent. And the latest one was Ubiquity.
Right.
And they'll take a short position in the stock, then they'll publish the report and say, and advertise. So they've got quite a slick media outlet aspect. Right. They'll say, oh, look at these terrible people, they're breaking the law. And the idea is that the stock will then go down and then they make bank. That's the business model. First of all, the Ubiquity thing's really interesting because the particular angle is that they are being used by the Russian military. And so that's, I know, something that you are interested in, and just the amount of networking equipment used in the modern battlefield was the sort of takeaway
sort of
for
staggering,
you, I guess.
Yeah, in a way. So for me it was very useful because I've been trying to argue in my thesis that this war is the most networked war since probably the Peloponnesian War. Or
I think you could well be right there.
Yeah. But seriously, like the degree of networking is beyond what people can sort of imagine, particularly military people, where they have these very limited ideas. And this helped so much just because of the ubiquity of the penetration of the devices. It was like, squads have one. Like a 3-man element in a basement has like a router and an antenna and stuff. Like it's everywhere. Yeah,
so the fraudulent part, or the bad part, the reputationally damaging part for Ubiquity is that the entities in Russia are meant to be sanctioned, so they shouldn't, their equipment shouldn't be ending up there. But the report spoke of letters from the Russian military saying, thank you very much, letters of commendation, great work, etc., etc.
So there was one brilliant email which said the minimum order is $100,000, and so they replied back. They're like, how come $100,000? And it comes back, you want to break sanctions? The minimum order is $100,000. Fair enough.
It's got to be worth our time if we're going to take that risk. Right? Allegedly. I'll just sprinkle a few of those around. I don't know where to put them, but I'll put them in there. So we had a quick look at Ubiquity's stock price, and it didn't seem to have shifted much in the wake of that announcement. And that implies that the market doesn't care about sanctions in this case. So this really very strongly reminded me of pretty much not exactly, but a very similar incident back in 2016 where a hedge fund, again, took a short position in, I think it was St. Jude's Medical, and they manufactured medical devices. The hedge fund had a security company, Muddy Waters, I think it was called, and they found all these vulnerabilities in St. Jude Medical's equipment. They produced a report and basically argued that they were deficient or negligent or somehow bad
there were malpractice lawsuits waiting to happen. That this was a sort of looming threat of badness of some sort, right?
Yeah, and so that kind of thing is, I think it's fascinating because it potentially provides companies with an incentive to improve security. And so all the time I'm looking for what is going to get companies to actually improve security.
Ransomware.
In that case, the stock apparently did drop, but it hasn't become standard practice. So,
right. Well, that's probably because the financial bros were looking at this and like, yes, it makes money, but is it ethical? And and they just went, like I couldn't sleep at night knowing that we had done this. It would sit badly with me. Yeah.
And like those medical devices, they may have been vulnerable to something.
Right.
But there's like, have I ever come across a story? I don't think I've ever come across a story where someone's medical device has been diddled with maliciously because of a vulnerability. Yeah. Like it's a theoretical attack vector, but in practice, like there's just not the motivated, malicious people who do that, right?
It becomes this like TV plot of like, what if there was a politician with a pacemaker and some adversary could remotely access it and kill them? And I mean, I think for most people, it'll be like, please go ahead. We hate our politicians. But also,
so there was
I don't think a nation state needs to do that if they want to kill someone. They have a lot of options, So it doesn't.
I think, if I remember rightly, it was Dick Cheney had his pacemaker modified to remove radio communication. Some very senior US politician. And that seems about right. If you're the vice president of the US, that probably could be a thing.
Sure.
That seems like a sensible thing to do. Why not?
Right. It's a lot like how Kamala Harris doesn't use AirPods because they're Bluetooth. And so that makes sense. Like if there's any security issues with Bluetooth and you're in that sort of position, you just don't want to be exposed to them. Similarly, the German government has now announced that like if you're doing security stuff for the German government, you're not allowed to use AirPods. And what I found funny was that there was an article that came out that said like the Germans are doing this, and it must be related to the fact that like there were some Bluetooth vulnerabilities announced recently. And that sort of misunderstands the way governments approach security problems. It's just
right. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Right. Like it could be no security vulnerabilities found ever, and they'd still say theoretically this could be a problem. You're not allowed to use it.
Yeah, and there's a pretty straightforward workaround, which is use a wired headphone. Look cool, apparently, nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, this sort of trail of thinking, it's basically brought me to the point that for the vast majority of people, most of the time, good security in things is not that important. And even though everyone in the industry thinks we're in a hellhole, it's fine.
So, welcome to the last episode of Between Two Nerds.
That's right. And so I was thinking to myself,
I want to push back on you, but I'm kind of struggling. I have to say, I would push back and I say, I agree that for the majority, but it's not like the vast majority necessarily.
Right.
Because I do think that there's a very sizable minority that does matter for. And here I'm thinking about people being stalked, vulnerable populations. There are a large number of people to whom it does matter, but hardly everyone. Right. For most people, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah. So the way I've been thinking about it is that for the vulnerability to matter, you need someone who's motivated to take advantage of it. And so people with a whole lot of cryptocurrency. Yeah. Like there are people motivated to go out and for a while at least the vulnerability has been in SIM swapping. Mm-hmm. Like that's been a weak point. People have exploited that, and that population is susceptible to the sort of, I guess I'd call it systemic vulnerability of just life.
Yep.
Right. So I think that's an example of a small population where that systemic societal vulnerability, maybe.
Right. It exposes the exposure that to most people shouldn't matter does to them simply because they have motivated adversaries. They have people who put in the effort. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the sort of two-sided thing. And for I agree. I think for a significant minority of the population, that is a problem. But the problem, the dynamic is that it's hard for a minority to get the majority to invest a lot in better security if it's like,
right.
Most of the time it doesn't get.
I mean, here's the thing is I would say that the security trade-off is between friction and freedom, right? So like the more security you have, the higher friction you deal with.
Right.
And the less you have, the more freedom you have to do what you want. The problem is if you have too much freedom, so does everyone else, and you're insecure. Whereas if you have too much friction, you stop doing that thing because it's just too difficult. And so for a significant minority, they want the degree of friction to be higher, but that friction cost exceeds what anyone else is willing to deal with.
Yeah. So I think we're just
we're saying the exact same thing.
News.
Yeah.
We're just trapped in this status quo where lots of people get owned and the rest of us don't care enough to fix it. One of the very first things when I started at Defence, there was an old school crusty security guy, and he said the opposite of security is not insecurity, it's convenience.
Yep.
And that's slightly very similar to what you were saying.
Yeah.
And it just frames it as, well, we want things to be convenient.
Yeah, like there's two costs that we're trying to impose on people if we want them to be secure. One is there's the resource investment just to get there. And the second thing is we're going to make things more inconvenient in the process. We're going to add friction, right? So, for example, if you are on the front lines in Ukraine, you will put a pin on your phone rather than biometric IDs. But then you'll use biometric ID to lock your apps. Because that way, if it's recovered and somehow they bypass the PIN and do image it, there's still another layer of protection against your individual things. If you're not on the front lines in a war zone, I think there's very, very few people who would benefit from having a PIN and biometric ID on each of their apps.
Right. Yep.
For their phone. You would stop doing it. You would turn them off after a day or two. Like, if you started on Monday, by Friday, that would be gone. There's no way that's going to work.
Yeah, so this is this kind of train of thought where we are where we are because as a society, that's more or less what we're happy with. But I was thinking that there is a population of people where that pervasive insecurity is just really, really bad news. And that's like intelligence professionals. And so, and it's not even all intelligence professionals. It's just a small number of them. And I think that it's this, maybe it's a sort of curve that is flat, and then
it's
there's
a bit of a hockey
fewer and
stick.
fewer people that care more and more and more because of societal insecurity.
Yeah. So I guess the example here would be just before the OPM hacks. This was back in 2016, 2015. So just before China hacked OPM, they'd also done a hack against Anthem, which is the Anthem, which is the medical insurance provider for the U.S. government. They'd also hacked, I think it was Delta, but it might have been United. I don't remember. But it was the airline that has the government contract and does like most of the flying for them. And I think Marriott was the hotel as well. But again, I could be wrong. But each of these have been hacked, and all of their databases of like customers and stays and flights and all this stuff had been downloaded. And there was this huge who would hack into a medical insurance provider and just steal their historical customer database? Like, what's the point of that? Yep. And it's obviously because that's where the CIA gets their medical insurance, right? So yeah, like you're absolutely right. Like there's a small amount of people who care that their medical insurance provider was vulnerable to getting hacked, and I don't think that those people have enough clout to change it.
And and I think it's not even like everyday, Mr. or Mrs. Josephine Schmo at the CIA who's just an analyst. It's like a small number of operatives who are meant to be doing secret things.
You're right.
A small number of covert facilities in different places that get outed because of that kind of, I keep on saying pervasive insecurity. So once upon a time, I would have said that if you're one of those people, there's steps that you can take that would protect you. But I think there's steps that can protect your communications. It's very difficult to protect your pattern of life if everything else is effectively an open book or close to it.
Right. So it's you could take a lot of steps to protect yourself, but it's not going to be enough because you have to protect every service that you interact with as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just that's not happening. One of the things that I thought you were going to say initially was that like a state should care about security even if the population doesn't.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure.
Like I thought the argument you were going to make was that states should care. And I would push back on that, saying they do when they need to. Right. And so I've got examples here, which is like, for example, Albania, which very clearly did not care. They got absolutely hammered. They panicked. They called like Article 4. They were trying to decide to call Article 5. Like they were absolutely freaking out. And then 2 years later, it's now happened enough that they are so good at it. They're hosting like resilience seminars and conferences and, like...
Their vulnerabilities become an opportunity.
Yeah. The Chinese for systemic nation-state risk is opportunity. But yeah, like the same thing happened with Russia, right? Like Russia didn't care about cybersecurity because no one was attacking them. Everyone was pissing outside the tent, right? They were inside pissing out. But once the war started and all the hacktivists got involved, everything changed. And within like 3 months, it had all been secured. I mean, like not secure, but it had been significantly improved from what it used to be. So my strong feeling now is like you'll see a lot of, when you read policy papers or you talk to people at think tanks and that, they always talk about like, we're very vulnerable. We need to work on this. Like it's an extreme, like they have this whole, like it's an extreme problem. And they're just, the problem they have is they're thinking of a point in time, right? Like you will be vulnerable for that first bit and that will suck. But then you get better and it doesn't matter anymore. Like it just...
Right. So it's the fatalistic, I'll deal with it when it comes type approach.
But that seems to work. Like we've seen it. Like the thing is, I think that that's an acceptable solution.
Right. Yep.
Because it absolutely does work. And it looks like the consequences are, I mean, they're not great for the few people who particularly suffer, but in general, it might be a reasonable trade-off for not having to make those investments now.
Right. Yeah. So when you said you thought I was going to argue that states should care, I guess I think the whole thing is a trade-off, right? Mm-hmm. The more you invest in security, the more inconvenient it is. Probably, I think from an economy-wide point of view, the slower your whole economy is. Like the pace of innovation is slower. And I think it's like, not that I think we're anywhere in an ideal place. But
you
it's not clear
first,
that we...
Tom thinks everything's perfect. We don't need to do any more.
It's not clear to me that more security would have left us in a better place today.
Yeah, so I'm gonna agree with you and expand on the reason why, in that the attacks that do happen are by people who are motivated for some reason, and I'm not sure that any incremental improvement of security would be sufficient to overcome them. Right? by which I'm saying it's like, look, if you have a default password set up and no one is looking for it, that doesn't matter. But if someone is looking for you and you have a default password set up, then yeah, that's bad. But if you don't have a default password set up, you're probably going to be vulnerable to something else that they will take the effort to exploit.
Right.
Right. And so like ransomware is good in that's going to get clipped. So the upside of ransomware. Now, the way that ransomware is really a benefit is ransomware provides this sort of opportunistic adversary, which in theory should mean that the lowest of low-hanging fruit has an incentive to do the bare minimum. And so ransomware should be creating that. And I think to a degree it is.
Right. Yep. It's providing that incentive that organizations need to improve. Yeah, so it's a real shame that the whole cybersecurity industry missed out on that gig. It's like making money and improving security. What's not to like?
Missed a trick on that one. But I guess the thing would be, it would be nice if there was a way to do ransomware without the ransom part of it.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the business model to improve security that like it actually works.
Right.
Sort of universally, you talk to people, it's like, it does drive security improvements. And unlike Hunter Brook and Muddy Waters that we spoke about right at the beginning, it's an enduring phenomena that's kept on keeping on and probably will keep on keeping on. And there's no good version of that. Like, I guess there's bug bounties but they're too sort of limited in scope to actually really drive huge improvement.
Bug bounties are a proactive feature, whereas I think ransomware is passive. Like, the less you do, the more likely you are to have a ransomware event. Right. So if you're involved in sponsoring bug bounties, you're probably not in the ransomware's target demographic, perhaps. But I don't think either of those really do anything for that small group of people who should really care, like the intelligence professionals. And I don't know. There must be other. There's vulnerable populations of people, right? There's there's.
I was going to say billionaires, but they probably have like compensating controls, which is paying, for 15 bodyguards or whatever.
Yeah. I think there's people who should care who don't, and they're in this sort of vulnerable minority, and they just sort of don't recognize it. So like the crypto people have been like, they get their fingers cut off and stuff. And I'm not sure that there's a technical solution to...
Right, yeah.
If someone's going to cut your finger off to get money from you, I don't know if changing your password is necessarily the security solution that will work. Like, I don't know if that's going to do it. But
patching your devices.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the one thing this does remind me of is I think Salt Typhoon does provide a good example of why for people who are exposed, everyone uses the phone networks. Some of them are particularly concerned about it, and that's the politicians, the government, civil service, military, even all of that. And so for them, they would want the networks to be secure.
Yep.
Right. Like it's a sizable minority, but they happen to be in a position of power, and so they were able, to a degree, to exert some leverage over the telcos and try and get them to do these sort of like bare minimum things. Right, like the change the default password, try to do patching in a reasonable time frame of some sort.
Hang on. I think the words that I saw the FCC chairman Brendan Carr use was accelerate patching. I didn't say anything about reasonable timeframes, just accelerate it.
Well, if you never patch, technically any patching at all is an acceleration. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even that, there's resistance. right? Even just like change the default password has like huge resistance. And I know there's this argument of like, if we introduce friction, it will slow down the rate of innovation. I can see like, yeah, if you have to multi-factor authenticate every time that you do anything, that's going to be slow and painful. But changing the default password does not seem like, like that doesn't seem like a bridge too far. That seems like a very reasonable step to require. Like,
yeah. So, I mean, this whole discussion just makes me feel pessimistic or maybe optimistic that we are where we are because, like, that's just somehow the balance that we've arrived at because of the incentives everyone has.
Right.
And so it's not we've accidentally ended up here because people are evil or people made the wrong choices.
It's not a moralistic thing.
Yeah,
it's not it's a systemic problem. Well, it's not even a systemic problem. It's a systemic outcome.
And even though some countries have more regulation and more pressure on companies to do better from a security point of view, it doesn't seem that there's like a night and day difference. Like companies still get breached. Some countries might be a bit worse than other countries.
Yeah, so like it seems like the world is ending, or it should end because of how bad everything is. But it's been like that since like the 90s, right? It's always just things are so bad. We could like at any point this sort of cyber apocalypse can hit us, and the fact that it hasn't, I think, doesn't reflect that it's not possible, but rather that no one benefits from doing it who could actually do it.
Right. So we're safe for now because there is no evil mastermind that wants to destroy the planet.
And I think it's like, before you get into cyber, you don't really care. Like, it's not a thing that's on your radar. It's not a thing that bothers you. As you go through your career, you see how bad everything is, and you want it to be better because it could be better. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot that needs to be done to just get better for everyone. Like just a little bit of this, a little bit of care, a little bit of, and you struggle and push and nothing happens. And I think after like 20 years, you suddenly go, yeah, I don't really care that much about security.
So this is we're the cyber senseis is what you're saying. We've passed through to the other side and don't care anymore.
Yeah. Exactly, Tom, exactly. Oh.
Thanks a lot, Grugq.
Thanks a lot, Tom.